I'm going to take you on a quick tour of HAL before I get into the specifics of how everything works. So HAL is a plugin for Grasshopper and works very similar to Grasshopper. And when you install it, it puts this robotics tab in Grasshopper. Along the tab are panels of various things that HAL actually does. So it adds a bunch of other functionality besides just robotics. So if you go under the first tab here, you're going to see under generic tools some of this functionality. So we'll use a lot of these potentially as we move through the trimester, but some of the key ones to look at are first and last. This will get you the first component of a list and a last, and at some point you'll see why this makes sense. But these just add some extra functionality to Grasshopper that are helpful when you're creating paths with the robot. The second tab is the robot tab, and this has most of the tools you need to create a robot. The one that we will use most often that you'll see used is the robot preset. These other ones we don't really need to make or use. We do have a rotary table. At some point we might use this, but the rest of these we don't really need. So we'll tend to use the robot preset. In the next video we'll show you how all of that works. Then we go to the HAL base. This is where all of the big parts of HAL are in all of the big modules that we will tend to use. The most common being a divide curve, which is a more complex version of divide curve, plus all the toolpath creators, the tool modules, everything we would need pretty much to get something working within HAL. The next one is what's called advanced programming. So this is actually rapid programming, or it could be KUKA, but in this case we're going to talk about rapid programming. These are functions and modules that are used to define or create actual rapid code that would be sent to the robot with the specific code that it needs. So we'll get into these as well. Another one that we'll be using probably right away with the LED drawing is the input-output programming. This allows us, it's very similar to the advanced programming in that it sets rapid terminology or the actual code for rapid and allows us to address the input and output channels of the robot itself. As we move along, we start to get into things that aren't really quite as relevant. So we get into, after the input-output channel, we get into what they call the communication one. This allows us to open real-time communications with the robot controller. I've never done it, so I can't really tell you what it does. This is for multi-robots. If we have more than one robot, it allows us to sync them. This is for hot wire cutting. You can look it up. It's not something we have on our robot. This is something for milling. Milling we actually do have, but the milling processes in HAL are pretty bad, so we don't tend to use those. We will use a different software if we wanted to use them. And then finally we have one for grippers. These two little functions here are fairly nice. Pick and place are predefined ways to pick something and place it. And this is a predefined function to give you a stack of material, which we will go into for project 2, but not now.